This is Planet 76, your source for all things Philadelphia 76ers. We've got another great episode coming your way today, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone, to Planet 76, episode 90.
Sure.
Almost episode 100, but episode 90. My name is Michael, and Troy is here, as he almost always is, because we are a 76ers podcast. We are co-hosts. So, Troy, West Coast trip has officially ended now. We're recording this. Thank God, I agree. 12:13 a.m. Monday,
Tuesday morning, right?
Actually, March 28th. And Sixers, they went 0-3.
They did.
So
yeah, trip to Golden State, came back with an L, then went to Phoenix, lost by 20 in Phoenix, got away from them in the fourth, and then tonight's game against the Denver Nuggets, again, just went final a few minutes ago. 116-111, I guess, I'm correct in saying that 5-point game a little closer than what it was, as kind of the feel of the game. So no Embiid in that one, no Harden. A lot of Sixers fans upset with that, without Embiid and Jokic getting that matchup. A lot of mainstream media around the NBA upset with Embiid, saying he needs to play these games and all that. The first, I don't know about you, we'll go here first though, because the first thing that came to my head when I found out that the Joel Embiid was not playing. Well, first I was a little upset. I was sad. I was like, oh man, you just look forward to that match. I wasn't upset with him. I wasn't upset with the team. And then secondly, when I not calmed down, I wasn't that upset, but when I just took a few minutes, myself, I was like, Joel Embiid has nothing to prove. I mean, we saw what he did against Jokic earlier this year, and you've said it before on this podcast, like, we make a lot of one-on-one matchups in the NBA and think that this is going to decide the MVP. Joel Embiid against Nikola Jokic in Denver. No, it's an 82-game season, and it just sucks as a fan to miss out on that game. But what's he got to prove? He's been incredible year after year. This year, doing things we didn't think he would be able to top last year, and he's doing it. Leading the NBA in scoring and whatnot. And so, just kind of sad as a fan. But we'll get into it more even with Harden sitting. I kind of understand with where the Sixers are at in the standings now and what it's shaping up to be. It kind of makes sense to get these guys some rest. So I don't know your immediate thoughts. Are people overreacting about Joel Embiid not playing? I figured that's what you would shake your head yes to that. But why don't you go ahead and just take that for a spin?
Oh yeah, I do agree. I think at this point in the season, obviously tonight was a marquee matchup, but at this point in the season, the Sixers need to shift their focus to the playoffs, because the playoffs, now the Sixers do have about 8 or 9 games left, but the playoffs are 2 weeks away. Just about, give or take a few days. It's time. The Sixers need to gear up and make sure they are 100% ready for the playoffs. What does that mean? Well, James Harden and Joel Embiid have to be healthy. So at this point in the season, I think you need to do what you need to do to make sure those guys are healthy, because that is what this entire season is riding on. If those two aren't healthy in the playoffs, this season meant nothing.
Yes, and we've officially out. I don't even know if it's official, but it's official here on Planet 76 that the running for the 1 seed is over for the Sixers, due in large part to this West Coast road trip. You lose three in a row on the West Coast, when you were 2 back of the 1 seed, and now you're done. The Milwaukee's still sitting at 54-21. Now the issue has become the likelihood of the 2 seed, which isn't likely now. 52-23 for the Celtics, and the Philadelphia 76ers are 3 back of them. So kind of just stings. It's all about gearing up for the playoffs. There's 7-8 games to go now. it's playoff time, and it's about getting healthy, getting right, like you mentioned. But it does sting a little bit to realize that if the Sixers even get past their first round matchup, which still could potentially be the Miami Heat, we know we don't want it to be the Miami Heat in the first round, but it could happen. But then in addition to that, if you get past them or whoever, you got to go to Boston and just in the second round to get to the conference finals where you'll likely play Milwaukee. I know we're playing that out way far in advance, but pretty wild stuff to think about. And think about where we were talking about the Sixers last week as it was an outside shot that they'd get the one, but they were right there with the Celtics. But now, since then, the Celtics have won 3 in a row and the Sixers have lost 3 in a row. So that's the story. That's all you need to know. But why don't we go ahead and focus a little bit on what we did see tonight. So again, there was no Joel Embiid against Denver. There was no James Harden against Denver. And it ended up a 5-point game, a 5-point victory for the Nuggets. Sixers outscored the Nuggets 34-25 in the fourth to kind of make it that kind of game. Tyrese Maxey was on fire early and then cooled off a ton late. So what did you see? Your thoughts on this? Does it show you anything in regard to playoffs? Because again, you're seeing a large sample size of players who are really role players for this team, but without the stars, they had to step up into a bigger role. Likes, dislikes, what'd you see?
I really like the fight of this team because the third quarter really got away from them. They were down by 20 plus a few times, actually a few different times they were down by 20 plus. But towards the end of the fourth quarter, they rallied all the way back. They almost won. They were down 4 at one point. Yeah. Ended up losing by 5. Tyrese Maxey was electric in the second quarter, 20 points. I mean, they could not guard him. They could not guard him. But these last few games have just confirmed. It's just been confirmation bias for me that I have no idea what the Sixers are going to do in the playoffs. I have zero clue, and I think if anybody says that the Sixers are definitely going to do this or definitely going to do that, they are wrong. I just don't think you can make an accurate prediction of what this team is going to do in the playoffs. I posted about this before, but they are just they're a question mark. They are an absolute wild card entering this postseason.
So what gives you that? And I don't disagree, but what are you basing that out of, would you say, right now? Because, tonight confirmed it for you, but, so Sixers are a wild card, but why?
Well, I don't know if tonight confirmed it for me, but I think these past few games have kind of confirmed, the past couple weeks have kind of confirmed it for me. Because I see such a high ceiling, and we've all seen it. We've all seen how amazing they can be, especially offensively. They'll hang 140 on opponents. Not regularly, but they've done it quite a few times this year. And then they'll just sink back down into just looking just sloppy.
Right.
So, to me, the potential is clearly there. They can be that kind of team. They almost beat the Celtics once this year. There's clearly things they can take away from that. They beat the Bucks this year. There's clearly things they can take away from that in potential playoff matchups. I don't want to say I'm high on the Sixers. I am to a degree, but I'm also just super neutral on them because I just don't know what's going to happen. I can't possibly say, yeah, you know what, they're going to lose in the second round. Because, sure, it could happen, but they could also make the conference. They could also make the finals. I truly do believe that. And I know that there's people out there who also believe that, and I'd like to think you're one of them. I don't know if you are. You don't have to be, but I know that there are people who agree with me on that.
I like to think I am. It is interesting that, again, it's hard to get away from this thought of what they're going to have to do to reach a finals, to reach a conference finals even.
It's going to be
a
slugfest.
It's a gauntlet. And they haven't helped themselves out, let's just say that, on this West Coast trip. by any means. Regardless, I mean, we talked about it last week that the 1 seed was unlikely heading into this West Coast road trip, but the 2 seed wasn't. Now the 2 seed's very unlikely. It's like they've really shot themselves in the foot a little bit, and it's hard to be too upset, but it's also hard to because I agree with everything you said, but then you also look at it, if you take these 3 games on the road trip aside, the Sixers were 12-12 at one point, and then they were 49-23, meaning that they had won 37 of 48 games. And
literally up until this
right.
road trip, they were the best team in the league
right.
after January 1st.
Right, yeah, 37-11.
Complete 180.
37-11. They looked good. They had the best record and that's a large sample size. That's like best record over 2 weeks. That's a long time. And yet, even then, there's still some man, I don't know. Can they get it done in the playoffs? Can they, So some of those questions, I mean, we're heading into April, so some of those questions start to creep up a little bit. And, you remember years past, and I don't know, man. It's the schedule of it doesn't shake out well. However, I remember 2 years, I guess the first time because we started this podcast a couple years ago in the playoffs, and the Sixers got the 1 seed that year, and we were so excited because of the route that it aligned for them that they wouldn't have to face, whoever, and none of that worked out because they lost to Atlanta, and so you just never know. We've obviously seen some, I don't think we'll see as much madness as we have in March Madness with college basketball, but you never know what's going to happen in the NBA too. So, Sixers certainly, you got to like the fight tonight. You got to like what you saw from some guys and maybe not so much from some others, but Jalen McDaniels, 6 for 8 from the field, had 14 points, was a plus 15 in 22 minutes off the bench. The Sixers starters were all very, very poor in the plus-minus category. And again, starters is a strong word when you consider Dwayne Dedmon. That includes him. And D'Anthony Melton, of course, too, starting in place of James Harden. But, it's tough. It's just tough to lose 3 games in a row and got to come back home.
And
but now, we're certainly just now super, okay, let's just be healthy for the playoffs, right? We're not chasing anything now.
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's just so, I'm just so to the feeling of, you know what? I do enjoy the regular season, but when it comes to the Sixers, obviously we're a Sixers podcast, I want the playoffs. I really want to see what the playoffs has in store for this team, because the next month, this is going to be I guess I should say the next 2 months. This could be franchise altering, really. Either way, whatever happens, this has the potential to be franchise altering, and there's a lot. And I'm sure we'll talk about it in the future. We haven't talked about it really on or off camera, but there's a lot riding on this, on this year's playoffs for the Sixers. There is. It makes me nervous just hearing that. It's what's going to happen? Because it's scary, man. Honestly.
Right, and I think because like you said, one way or the other, franchise altering, and I think the window where it doesn't alter much is very, very small.
Oh, it's
in the
very
middle,
small,
right? I don't know what that would look like as to.
I don't even know if it exists.
Right,
actually.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe there is no window in the middle. It's either going to be altering I'm not even going to say good or bad, but on this side or on that side. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. And I think this year is certainly more so than even years past, which, we know some of the history there and what's happened. But I will say this about the game tonight and about, just the importance of not only Joel Embiid to this team, but James Harden. They just haven't looked like themselves without James Harden, the floor general, out there, and that makes sense. It'd be a different feel if we went out west and lost 3 games at full strength. It would certainly be a different feel. I feel a little bit more upset, certainly about the loss tonight. Like you mentioned, you like the fight to lose by 5 to a 51-24 Denver Nuggets team without your 2 best players. However, there were some, things. So Shake Milton played 22 minutes, probably the most minutes he's played in a while, and he went 0 for 7 from the field for 2 points. Shake Milton. So we got a question, and believe it or not, this question on Shake Milton came before the game tonight. It's just so fitting because of that stat line that Shake had. So this is from, I can't pronounce the name, Taher4TF, Taher4TF. He said, do you think that Doc should play Springer in the role of Shake for a game or so, since Shake hasn't been playing very well, and Jaden has showed his capabilities in very limited time, and he's also a great defender, which we could use. And he also said that he's been a fan of the show for a while and likes what we're doing. So we appreciate that. We appreciate the question as well. So your thoughts, Jaden Springer, Shake Milton, and again, it's funny to answer that with what Shake did tonight. That's just one small sample size. But your thoughts on Jaden Springer, maybe getting some minutes, maybe even just to close out the regular season.
I like Springer. The Sixers did draft him after all with their only pick in the 2021 draft. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get minutes now, but I would really like to see him get minutes in the future. And as for the Shake role, I don't know. It's kind of hard to fulfill that role when you aren't. Like, Jaden Springer and Shake Milton are very different types of players. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you could fill that role with a player like Jaden Springer. I don't know if that would work, but I would like to see Springer get minutes in the future. I do like him as a player, and I think he's still only 20 anyway, so there's potential there. There's a ceiling there. Yeah,
Jaden Springer's still like 17. Like he's like so young still. He's been in the league forever, it feels like. There is certainly potential there. And like we just mentioned a moment ago, I think again, now we're just like, let's get ready for the playoffs. So why not give him some minutes? He played a little bit tonight. I don't know what he's been doing, even before that, but why not? Again, we're at the point. Just stay healthy, and see what he can do at the end of the season. I do not think that that'll carry over into the playoffs unless he just explodes onto the scene over these last couple of weeks. Yeah. But that does beg the question: what does that role look like in the playoffs? What is Shake Milton's role in the playoffs? And so I did look, and Shake's played a little bit, more minutes than I would have guessed. Over these last few games. So he played 24 minutes against Phoenix and that blowout, 23 against Golden State. Again, no James Harden in those. But Shake has been shaky. So he's played a lot of minutes over the last 6 games, and he hasn't hit double figures yet. We're talking 25, 28 minutes a game in some of those, and he hasn't hit double figures. Before that, he did have a few double-figure games in the month of March, but so what would you say your ideal role for Shake Milton in the playoffs, assuming everybody's healthy, barring anything crazy? Is there a place for Shake to get regular minutes, and how many is that per game? And or maybe it's as simple as no, and you play 8-9 guys, and Shake Milton's not one of them.
I really hate that I have to say this. I don't want to, because I still do like Shake Milton.
Yeah, as the founder of the Shake Shack over here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he has a spot in the playoffs. If I'm the coach of the Sixers, I'm saying, hey, Shake, great player, really like your game, but I just don't know if you have a spot in this rotation in the playoffs, because you have Melton, he's your main guard really. You have Maxey, you have Melton, you have Harden. You have Niang, you have McDaniels, you have Reed. I don't know if Milton has a spot. You're going to play 11 guys. We know Glenn has done that, so I wouldn't put it past him. But still, you're going to play 11 guys in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think that if this was last year, again, not based on numbers or stats or anything like that, but I think there was more of a place for Shake last year.
Yes.
And again, we saw that he didn't get much even then. And the reason I say that is because of, that other guard ahead of him. So, you got obviously Maxey and you got James Harden. But last year, the other guard was Danny Green. And Danny Green and Shake Milton, what they provide, what they offer is totally different things. obviously. And so there was kind of a need maybe at times. We saw Shake check into the playoffs a few times and get some buckets and do really, really well. But that's because there was a need for that. But when you come into the playoffs this year, now you got 3 guards that are capable of handling the ball, including DeAnthony Melton. And so, if Glenn, in an ideal world, you have to think that you can stagger those guards' minutes and have 2 of them on the floor at all times between DeAnthony, Tyrese, and James Harden. You got to think that can happen. Minutes are going to go up, and 2 of those can be on the floor at all times, maybe even 3 at times. So it'll be interesting, though, to see how it, for lack of a better term, and pun, I guess intended, shake out. All right. Okay, so 49-26. Why don't we just do this? So as we look ahead at the schedule, come back home for a game against Dallas. Then we got Toronto, Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, Atlanta, Brooklyn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games to go. Season wraps up on Easter Sunday, April 9th. So what do you want to see?
I said it last week, but I just want them to win the rest of these games. Because the Cavs are kind of creeping up on them. Honestly, they're only a game and a half back from the Sixers. Just the Celtics Bucks coming up. I know it's going to be difficult. They have the Mavs on Wednesday, which, despite their skid, is still not an easy game either. The Sixers need to win the rest of these games and the season on a really strong note. Get that momentum back in the playoffs. They've had multiple 7-game win streaks this year. Let's get another one. Let's get some momentum back in the playoffs.
Would be good, and that's a good point because Cleveland is
I'm kind of scared
on their heels a little bit. I know it's kind of
oh
funny.
My gosh.
Yeah, but because then you're looking at a matchup, win the 4-5, but then you get the Bucks in the second round. Not fun either.
Not fun.
I've asked you this, but I forget what you said. Bucks or Celtics? Do you give the Sixers a chance? If the Sixers, yeah. Who would you rather play?
I would rather play the Bucks probably. Just please keep the Celtics far away from the Sixers at all costs.
I agree. I would say the Bucks too. Not that I'm yeah.
No. But if I had to choose, the Bucks. Yeah.
That's who I would choose right now, and it feels weird saying that, but I hate playing in Boston. I hate Boston. Not fun. That would not be fun. I would throw things, I think, at my TV if they hit a big 3. They make every time we play Boston playoffs, they make 18 threes a game. Yeah, Al Horford hit 4 in the third quarter, just put it away. Yeah, we don't want to see that. Real quickly though, so obviously elephant in the room, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid didn't play each other tonight. Nikola Jokic played very well, as he tends to do. I don't have a ton to say on the whole MVP thing. I think it's a lot of talk. Personally, I know you feel pretty strongly the same way about just the whole conversation and bias and all of that fun stuff. What I will say, I heard this a couple weeks ago now about the MVP race, and a lot of people are thinking that Joel's taken the lead in that or whatever. But something that was very interesting was someone said Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. It's been very close, obviously, the last 3 years, including this year, because they're 1 and 2 in the MVP race every year. Last 3 been very, very close. And someone said that, as good as they both are, if it's really this close over the last 3 years, how are you going to give 3 to the same guy? That's and again, that's just, and I can see the NBA doing that. They can be just they'll even. Not that I think they should, but they'll be well, we gave it to this guy for 2 years, but this guy's been really, really close to him for the last 3 years, and so why don't we give it to him this year, to be fair. But it is a good point, if it's that close of a race, then how does one guy get all 3? So I thought that was interesting. No disrespect to Nikola Jokic or anything, again, there are Sixers fans who say to me, oh man, it should be Joel Embiid, no doubt, no problem, but Nikola Jokic is an unbelievable player and puts up unbelievable numbers, and their team is playing very well this year. So yeah, and that is my take on the MVP race real quick. But we will see you next time for episode 91. and we inch closer to the 76ers in the playoffs. Coming up, we'll see you next time. Peace.
If you are a Philadelphia 76ers fan, this is the podcast for you. Planet 76, a weekly podcast covering all things Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see you next time.